Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 12, the penultimate episode here in 2019 of the Chasing the Racing podcast. It is Monday, December 23rd, 2019, and we're here live in my bedroom to talk about racing. Hope that all of you guys had a fantastic week, a fantastic weekend, was able to find something to do in the racing world this past week. I know it's been a tough month. It's been a very tough month to find racing entertainment. This weekend was easier than most, but we're almost there. We're almost there, at least in my mind. Like, this is probably the worst month of the off season, because once we get into January is where we start kicking things up again. At least for me. I've got 2 Enduros the first week of January. Monster Energy Supercross starts back up the first weekend. Things will be normal very shortly. I'm 9 days away from getting back to the racetrack. I have no idea if I will be going to the racetrack as a fan or as a driver. Hopefully I will have more information about that next week. But either way, things will start to get easier and more fun for us racers in the very near future. And I am beyond ready for that time to come. We did have a pretty significant racing event go on this past week. That was the 3rd annual Gateway Indoor Dirt Nationals event that happened in St. Louis. So we're going to start off our show talking about that. Had some more news, as always, come out this past week. Not as much, at least, as what I had seen. So it was a bit of a slower week, which kind of makes sense, seeing that we're closing in on Christmas. We're closing in on... This was the 4th? This year was the 4th year for that? Why did I think it was the 3rd? Okay. I got corrected in live chat that apparently this year it was the 4th annual Gateway Indoor Dirt Nationals. I thought it was the 3rd. Maybe I'm getting that confused with the East Coast Indoor Dirt Nationals, because I know this year would have been the 3rd, but technically they're taking this year off and they're doing it in February, but maybe that's why I'm confusing that. I don't know. But either way, that went down this week, and we'll be able to talk about that. But yeah, probably because we're 2 days away from the holiday. Could be part of that. Everyone's kind of checking out, worrying about the holiday than they are worrying about work and racing stuff. But we will still have a full and complete show tonight, so no worries there. So let's dive in. Let's do some chit-chatting about this past weekend's Gateway Dirt Nationals event happening in, what is that called? America's Dome? The America's Dome? In St. Louis. 3 classes now that took part this past weekend. You had midgets, modifieds, and super late models. Very action-packed weekend of racing. Lots of excitement, lots of good things to talk about. And overall, it was a pretty good show from what I was able to see. I wish that the track surface was much smoother than what it was. Watching a lot of videos and highlights stuff, the track was really rough. Really rough. We had multiple cars that were flipping. You had at least one flip in each of the 3 divisions this past weekend. But surprisingly, with the track being as rough as it was, it still produced really good racing. Like, there was a lot of highlight material racing to talk about and to watch. So, it's good. Very good that the racing was still good. Just wish that the track was a little bit smoother. Maybe they'll be able to figure that out. I don't think this is the first time they've had that issue, but maybe something can come better and make the racing even better than what we saw. So things started off this past Thursday night on the 19th. Only 2 of the 3 divisions ran features. The late models, they just had qualifying. They did not run any feature events. They didn't even run heat races. They just had straight qualifying on Thursday. But the midgets and the modifieds did race on Thursday. The midgets competed in a 20-lap feature for $3,000 to win. Looks like they had 17 cars that took the green flag for it. They actually... Okay, yeah, so they had 18 cars that qualified. 18 cars qualified. They ended up starting 17, so I don't know who it was that didn't start. 2 heat races, 8 laps apiece, everybody transferred. The heat races were won by Thomas Meseraull and Chris Windom. And then, as just mentioned, the 20-lap $3,000 to win feature, starting 17 cars. Pretty good battle. And I'm going to show you the highlight video here. We really aren't a show that just blasts a bunch of videos and stuff. But with this week kind of being a lighter week as far as content to talk about, and with some of the quality of racing that we had during this event, definitely some stuff worth showing. At least a little bit here. So, really good racing between Justin Grant and Thomas Meseraull throughout that feature, trading slide jobs, battling hard. In the end, T-Mez got it done. He was able to take the win over Justin Grant. Blake Hahn finished in 3rd. Chris Windom was 4th. Logan CV rounding out the top 5. Anton Hernandez 6th. Tyler Courtney, this year's USAC Midget Champion, finished in 7th. Andrew Felker 8th. Paul Nienheiser was 9th. And Austin Brown rounding out the top 10. And then for the rest of the field, since it's kind of small, you had Ryan Newman, yes, the NASCAR Ryan Newman, in 11th, Tim Crawley 12th, Ace McCarthy 13th, Sam Johnson 14th, Christopher Bell 15th, Carter Sarf 16th, and Daniel Robinson wrapped up the field. So I mentioned that we had had a pretty good battle between Meseraull and Grant. Let's show you exactly what I was talking about. I really hope that we don't have this funky issue this week. Sweet. All right. I'll be able to show you guys stuff. That's good. That is very good. So, this is with 3 laps to go. It says so up here in the top. 3 laps to go. We got Justin Grant currently leading Thomas Meseraull. This is the finish to the Thursday night feature of the Gateway Dirt Nationals for the midgets.
Up front, battling for the lead, and only 3 of them are going to transfer into Saturday's race. This time by 2 laps to go. Here comes T-Mez.
Justin Grant bobbles a little bit there now, nose the tail off into a third. A slider for the lead. T-Mez for the lead. Yeah, it's a drag race on a 2 down the back straightaway. Grant edges ahead. Who's going to win the battle back to the line? The white flag waves one more time around the speedway.
Final time around. 4 cars battling for 3 transfer spots. T-Mez with another slider for the lead. Grant's going to slide him back. Battle for the 3rd and final transfer spot as well. In a race to the line. It's going to be T-Mez getting the win.
Justin Grant goes to 2nd, coming home in 3rd place.
That's wingless racing for you, baby. That is the pinnacle of what wingless racing is right there. Throw in sliders, hard-nose racing. Thomas Meseraull gets it done over Justin Grant on the Thursday portion for the midgets. Great feature. Great feature event. Awesome finish between the 2 of them. And as you heard there in the commentary, I didn't mention it even though it's staring me right in the face. The top 3 finishers locked themselves into Saturday's feature, which is the headline feature, the big one for the whole event. So that was Thomas Meseraull, Justin Grant, and Blake Hahn. They locked themselves in. They got to race on Saturday. Mentioned that the modifieds also ran a feature event on Thursday as well. Same thing for them. 20 laps, $3,000 to win. Top 3 locked themselves into Saturday's feature. They had more cars than what the midgets did. They had 24 cars take qualifying time. 25 took hot laps. 3 heat races, 8 laps apiece. The top 5 transferred, and then they ran 1 B main for 12 laps. They had 7 cars compete in that. The top 3 transferred there. Your heat winners in the modifieds were Casey Burdett, Derek Loesch, and Bobby Pierce. And then in the B main, Will Krupp picked up the win there. And then in the main event for the modifieds, you had Levi Kissinger picking up the victory over Derek Loesch and Josh Harrison third. So those are your 3 drivers that qualified in to Saturday's feature. Then Jeffrey Ledford was 4th, Casey Burdett 5th, Mike McKinney 6th, Chad Sellers 7th, Kyle Strickler 8th, Jim Black 9th, Robbie Eilers rounding out the top 10. Jay Bollinger was 11th, Eric Perry 12th, Rodney Standifer in 13th, Bobby Pierce 14th, Michael Altobelli Jr. 15th, Darren Fuqua in 17th, Kyle Steffens 17th, and Will Krupp running out the field in 18th. I believe, was it this Thursday night show that Bobby Pierce got himself upside down? He finished 14th, so kind of makes me think that is the night that it happened. All I saw were photos. I didn't see a video of his flip, but it sounded like he stalled the car, and I'm guessing just kind of rode it up the wall, catch fence, and toppled it over. Wasn't really much to be concerned about, but late model standout Bobby Pierce did get himself upside down this weekend in Missouri. So that is your Thursday night rundown of information from the Gateway Dirt Nationals. Now we move on to Friday. Friday, we did have dirt late model racing happen. Lots and lots of late models for this event. My goodness. Just to kind of give you an idea of how many, well, I don't even have to give you an idea. I can just straight up tell you. Hot laps, you had 80. Yeah, I said that right. 80 cars took time in hot laps on Friday night for the late models in this event. Insane. The middle of December, the weekend before Christmas, 80 late models. That's awesome. That is awesome to get that many cars for this event. They did the qualifying on okay, I was reading no. Doesn't matter. Qualifying doesn't matter. But anyway, they ran 12 heat races. The top 3 cars from each transferred in. They split. They did 2 features. They did 2 features, by the way. So just letting you know. So that way you're not like, wait, 12 times 3 is 36. How do they start 36 cars? They ran 2 features. So 12 heat races. Top 3 cars transferred in the heat races. And then you had 2 C mains and 2 B mains. Those mains, the C mains were 10 laps. They took 4. The B mains were 12 laps. They took 2. So in total, you had 40 cars race features. So they took half the field raced, half the field did not. For the 20 lap, $5,000 to win feature. Again, top 3 drivers locked into the Saturday feature. So you'll have 6 guys going in. In the first feature, you had Tyler Carpenter pick up the win. Ryan Unzicker was second, and Mike Spatola picked up the third and final transfer spot for Saturday. Tanner English was 4th, Scott James 5th, Billy Moyer 6th, Brennan Shepard 7th, Chad Zobrist in 8th, Jeremiah Hurst in 9th, Bobby Pierce rounding out the top 10. The Group 2 feature saw Shannon Babb go to victory lane. Rusty Schlenk finished in 2nd. Patrick Daniel, 3rd and final transfer spot there. Jonathan Davenport finished in 4th. Gordy Gundaker in 5th. Jason Wagner 6th. Kevin Smith 7th. Blair Northdurft in 8th. Joey Coulter 9th. And Jaden Frame rounding out the top 10 in the second late model feature. So Tyler Carpenter, Ryan Unzicker, Mike Spatola, Shannon Babb, Rusty Schlenk, and Patrick Daniel all coming out of Friday's preliminary night, looking very, very good. They qualified themselves to the Saturday feature and don't have to worry too much about the Saturday drama trying to get yourself into the show. So that's just phenomenal. That's awesome that they got that many cars. Really, really cool. So they, I'm sure the promoters and everybody working that event were extremely happy with that turnout there. In the midgets, midgets ran the same thing as they did on Thursday night. Another 20-lap feature for $3,000 to win, and the top three would also lock themselves into the main feature on Saturday once again. They had 18 cars take time in qualifying, 2 heat races, 8 laps apiece. Everybody transferred. Tanner Thorson and Kyle Larson were the heat race winners. No need for any consolation or LCQ type events. Everybody went to the A main. And on Friday night, it was Young Money doing what he has done best since the NASCAR season ended. Picked up the win on Friday night. Yet another midget victory for Kyle Larson. This being the preliminary night on Friday. Kyle Larson gets the win. Cannon McIntosh second. The third place position went to Michael Pickens. He gets the third and final transfer for Friday night. And then you had Tanner Thorson in fourth, Cole Bodine in fifth. We talked about Cole on last week's show. Dylan Welch in 6th, Gio Selsley 7th, Jonathan Beeson 8th, Sean McClellan 9th, and then Robert Dalby 10th, Dave Darland 11th, Chase Briscoe 12th, Carson Garrett 13th, Jake Newman 14th, Sammy Swindell 15th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 16th, Clinton Boyles in 17th, and Ethan Mitchell rounded out the field in 18th place. So another successful victory for Kyle Larson, setting himself up very well for the Saturday feature, along with Cannon McIntosh and Michael Pickens. For the modifieds on Friday night, they took 23 cars took time during qualifying. They had 3 heat races, 8 laps apiece. Everybody transferred. You had Mike Harrison winning heat race number 1. Kyle Bronson picked up heat race number 2. And Michael Long was your heat 3 winner. They as well competed for another 20 laps and another $3,000 to win. And as the story goes, top 3 cars qualified into Saturday's feature. This one was won by Mike Harrison, who was the Heat 1 winner. Kyle Bronson finished in 2nd. Michael Long was 3rd. So your top 3 finishers were your heat race winners from Friday's show. They qualified for Saturday's feature. Clay Money finished in 4th. What a freaking last name that is. Trent Young rounding out the top 5. Tyler Erb 6th. Tommy Shepard Jr. 7th. Jeff Lecca in 8th. Rick Conoyer in 9th. And Denny Trebout Jr. Rounding out the top 10 finishers there. Then you had Chase Allen 11th, Braden Berry 12th, Peyton Taylor 13th, Trey Harris 14th, Kenny Wallace 15th, Jeff Larson 16th, Joe Dresch 17th, Evan Fink 18th, Nick Hoffman 19th, Mark Anderson was 20th, and Drake Troutman rounding out the field in 21st position. So that takes you through all of Friday night's racing action from the Gateway Dirt Nationals and leaves us to Saturday. Saturday's racing, phenomenal. Lots to talk about on Saturday. Let's see here. Looks like we got a quick comment from that Friday show. Fun fact on Friday in the mods, Kyle Bronson overheated at the end and set off the smoke alarms inside the dome. Congratulations, Bronson. I would like to think that that's probably one of the very rare or few times that has ever happened. So Kyle Bronson can be known as one of the few drivers to set off a smoke alarm at a racing event. Nice accolade to add to your name. I'm sure he didn't expect to do that this past weekend. So with Saturday's events, we'll start things off with the late models. This feature was insane. Absolutely insane. If there's anybody that can find me the video, I couldn't find it myself, at least on quick search. If anybody out there has got the video of Tyler Carpenter and Ryan Unzicker battling, that would be phenomenal. I'd love to show that to you guys. So with everything that happened on Thursday and Friday, all that the late models did were they ran LCQs. So they broke that down into 6 different races, 10 laps apiece. The top 2 transferred, and then they allowed the top 6 cars from Friday's program to hot lap. So you took 12 cars from the B mains on Saturday. I'm just trying to scroll. Okay, so how does that make up the rest of the field then? You have 12 cars, and then... Alright, so you had the 6 cars that qualified in on Friday, 12 cars from the B mains, and then there's 2 more spots left. I don't know how they determined that. But anyway, good point. Kyle Bronson's car can set off the smoke alarms, but pyrotechnics don't. Maybe they learned. Well, no, I don't know. Well, yeah, because you said that was Saturday, so maybe they learned from Saturday and they turned those off. I don't know. But anyway, either way, 40-lap feature, $30,000 to win this event. $30,000 to win the Gateway Dirt Nationals for the late models. This feature was fantastic. Saw some highlights of it, and there was an insane battle late in the going between Tyler Carpenter and Ryan Unzicker. The two of them were racing hard, side by side, doing a lot like what we saw with that midget feature on Thursday night. Trading sliders, bouncing off the wall. It was insane. And then it got down to 9 laps to go, and with the track surface being the way it was, Ryan Unzicker unfortunately catches a rut the wrong way, and he flipped himself over trying to race for the lead. Heartbreak. Horrible occurrence to happen. Ruined that race, but it didn't ruin the race as a whole, because Tyler Carpenter's had a hefty challenge from Brandon Shepard. Brandon Shepard racing for Donnie Schatz in his late model this past weekend, and he just about won the thing. Shepard was reeling him in, was able to challenge for the lead, tried to take the lead, tried to win the race at the very last second, was not able to do so. Tyler Carpenter picks up the win, and that right there is your margin of victory. Carpenter's on the outside, Brandon Shepard on the inside. Maybe half a tire forward is all that Carpenter was able to pick up the win by. Listening to his post-race interview, he had absolutely no idea that that was even the last lap. Just was so zoned in and focused on racing hard. Fortunately, he didn't let himself slip, because if he did, he would have handed the lead and the win off to Brandon Shepard. So an absolutely phenomenal finish there, a phenomenal race for those late models. The top 2, Billy Moyer finished in 3rd. Jonathan Davenport, this year's Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series champion, finished in 4th. Gordy Gundaker was 5th. Blair Northdurft in 6th. Jason Fager in 7th. Chad Zobrist in 8th. Tanner English 9th. Ryan Unzicker rounded out the top 10 after the flip. Bobby Pierce 11th. Rushy Schlenk was 12th. Have no idea who finished 13th because it literally shows just a dashed line. Alan Weiser in 14th, Mike Spatola in 15th, Patrick Daniels 16th, Shannon Babb 17th, Scott James 18th, Ricky Thornton Jr. 19th, and Jason Wagner rounding out the 20-car field for the Saturday night portion of the Dirt Late Models. As mentioned with those crazy highlights and moments, want to give you guys an opportunity to check that out if you have not done so already. We'll show you first here. This is kind of a big blown up video, but hopefully it'll work right. This is the battle between Tyler Carpenter and Ryan Unzicker that unfortunately resulted in Ryan Unzicker going upside down, as you can see already spoiled for you, but here you go. So this right here is Tyler. This is Ryan. Not the greatest footage. Somebody recording the broadcast, but still. You at least get to see what happens here. So, battling hard, through lap traffic, changing lanes, throwing sliders. Look at how hard he drives that thing in there. Track as rough as it is, 30 grand on the line, you gotta go for it. And these two sure did. And you can see, even before this all happens, how much Ryan's car is bouncing through the track. And right here, over she goes.
Poor fella.
Such a shame. Such a shame to see a phenomenal battle end like that. It's surprising how well the track was able to race, even with it being that rough. But it just makes you wish that it was just a little bit smoother so that battle could have lasted longer into the end of the race. Speaking of the end of the race, this is the battle between Brennan Shepherd and Tyler Carpenter. Pulling the video up here. Just want to get it all set for you. So this is it. So right here is Tyler Carpenter. This is Brennan Shepherd. I don't know if that's the third place car. Sounds like it might be. But either way, here's the
3 and 4, Sheppy rejoins the battle. 3 young guns shooting it out tonight in the dome. Oh, a puff of smoke out of Tanner English's car.
Tanner English. Smoke out from underneath the 96, and that is not good. He falls back to third. Shepherd closes back in on your race leader, Carpenter. 3 to go.
3 laps to go, and English may be done. He looks like John Force.
All the body hanging off that 26 car.
We're going to race back to 2 flags.
Or 28. I can't tell if that's a 26 or a 28. But off of Carpenter's car, tons of damage on the rear end.
3 and 4. Shepherd, though, maybe a little better in 1 and 2. Now this time by, the white flag is out. Final time around.
White flag there. Sheppy closes in on Carpenter. Off into turns 1 and 2. Half a lap to go. Who's it going to be, Dustin?
Down the back straightaway for the final time. Shepherd has a run. Off 3 and 4. The winner of the Gateway Dirt Nationals is going to be Tyler Carpenter.
Carpenter by a nose.
You see Shepherd go through 3 and 4 there, and you don't think he has a hope in hell of getting to Carpenter, but just somehow was able to find a way to hook that car up and made it close. Made it a lot closer than what I'm sure Tyler would have liked. But a great race for all the fans to watch for sure. Yeah, it's incredible to see the racing that place put on. It's definitely becoming a staple event and kind of getting into the norm. I think I've seen improvement in it every year, and this year's racing was probably some of the best that we have seen since this event has been formed. A lot of other people took to social media to compliment the racing they saw. Kyle Larson on Twitter, he said, "These damn late model guys are ripping it hard." Very much liked what he saw on Saturday night. Tanner Thorson said, "I need a super late model ride ASAP. Let's make it happen. These things are badass." Ace McCarthy, late models at Gateway Dirt are the shit. Gio Selzy, I gotta say, late models at Gateway Dirt are the most insane thing I have ever seen, and watching Brennan Shepherd murder the fence for 40 laps was pretty cool too. So some great feedback from some of the midget guys that were in attendance watching and racing themselves. The fans were happy. The racers were happy. Tyler Carpenter putting on a couple of interviews this past weekend that were classic Tyler Carpenter interviews. Couldn't ask for anything different out of him. He's becoming a legend behind the mic, and it's really cool to see a smaller guy like that pick up such a big win and continue to put himself in the public eye and doing good things. 10 to 15,000 people in the stands on Saturday. That's good. That's really good for a small little racing. Well, a small venue like that. That is really good. That's really, really good. Glad to hear that. In the midget finale on Saturday night, They also had an LCQ only program. They ran 3 B main events, 10 laps apiece. They took 4 to qualify into the 30-lap $10,000 to win feature event. And then they did the same thing. The top 6 cars from the previous 2 nights were able to hot lap. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus another 6 is 18. And again, they must have had 2 provisionals because 20 cars took the field. Back-to-back nights, yet another impressive win for Young Money Kyle Larson. He won on Friday, got the win again on Saturday. He's been killing these guys in midgets since the NASCAR season ended. And I know he's going to Australia to race more this week and this weekend in either a midget or sprint car down there. So Kyle Larson, another big win, $10,000 richer. He wins the Gateway Dirt Nationals midget event. Chris Windham finished in 2nd. Tyler Courtney was 3rd. Tanner Thurston 4th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. rounds out the top 5. Michael Pickens 6th. Logan Seavey 7th. Christopher Bell 8th. Justin Grant 9th. And Chase Briscoe rounding out the top 10. Blake Kahn was 11th. Austin Brown 12th. Thomas Meserol 13th. Cannon McIntosh 14th. Andrew Felker 15th. Anton Hernandez 16th. Paul Nienheiser 17th. Carter Sarf 18th. Jonathan Beeson 19th. And Sammy Swindell rounding out the 20-car field. I said 10 laps, 30 to win. 30 laps, 10,000 to win. However I said it, it was absolutely 30 laps, $10,000 to win. I promise you. That is legit. So there's your rundown for your midget event on Saturday night. All of these guys that are racing Kyle Larson on a continuous basis are going to be extremely happy when the NASCAR season starts. So that way he can get the hell out of their racing and open it back up to everybody else. Whether he does the same thing in Australia or not, we will see. But incredible run that Kyle has been on since NASCAR wrapped up. Could you imagine? So let's just take my mistake in a literal sense. Could you imagine a $30,000 to win race that was only 10 laps long? That would be disastrous. You'd have guys stuffing each other like it was a race on Wreckfest, which I've been ridiculously addicted to over the last few weeks, so that's why I said that. That would be wild and extremely dangerous, so hopefully that never happens. Modified event for Saturday night. Their program consisted of 4 B mains. Top 3 took transfer spots. So you had 12 there. Top 6 cars locked in from previous events, plus I'm assuming 2 provisionals once again. Gives you a 20-car field for the 30-lap $10,000 to win event. That one was won by Derek Loesch. Kyle Bronson picked up position number 2. Levi Kissinger, however, finished in 3rd. Michael Albertoli Jr. was 4th. Darren Fuqua in 5th. Casey Burdett 6th. Josh Harris 7th. Kyle Strickler 8th. Trent Young 9th. And Jeffrey Ledford rounding out the top 10. Tyler Erb finished in 11th. Michael Long was 12th. Chris Arnold 13th. Mike McKinney 14th. Kyle Steffens 15th. Rick Conwater 16th. Ray Bollinger 17th. Mark Anderson in 18th, Clay Money 19th, and Mike Harrison rounding out the 20-car field. So there you have it, my friends. All of the results, the information, the news, the drama, all the fun from the Gateway Dirt Nationals this past weekend in St. Louis, Missouri. A very successful event this time around. Like I said, track could probably be a little bit smoother, but it was able to produce some very exciting racing. Sounds like it was a great turnout from the fans. Car counts were awesome. Overall, a very successful event, and probably one that is going to continue on into the future. I know very, very many people are looking forward to getting to racing. Back to their normal racing here in the future. But this is very quickly becoming a staple event in the off-season, and a lot of people are very happy with what they are seeing. Loesch got Bronson on the last corner. Oh, man. That just adds to the awesome intensity of this event. Good shit. That's awesome. So, yeah, that just makes it even more successful and even better of of an event to talk about and to help continue it on in the future. So we'll transition into the news segment of our show. We've got some things to talk about news-wise. Unfortunately, we're not talking about, we're not starting things off on a positive note, but it is absolutely important that we mention this. On Friday, the NASCAR world took a huge loss. A legendary figure in the sport passed away on Friday. That was Junior Johnson, 88 years old. Junior Johnson passed away. His health was not the greatest. He had a stroke sometime last week, or I think it might have been the Friday prior to this past Friday. He was put into hospice care early last week, and unfortunately he passed away on Friday. Junior Johnson, an incredibly historic figure in the world of NASCAR. We'll read this little paragraph here from NASCAR.com that kind of highlights the majority of his accomplishments. Johnson was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame in its inaugural class of 2010. He won 50 races in NASCAR's top division, the most of any driver without a championship, and added 132 victories and 6 championships as a successful team owner for many legends of the sport. Johnson won the second running of the Daytona 500 in 1960, then added 2 more triumphs in the Great American Race as a car owner in 1969 and 1977. That alone is just incredible. Incredible numbers. No doubt a deserving place in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Just a very sad day. A very, very sad day this past Friday to know that Junior Johnson has passed away. Horrible for the family, too, at this time of the year. Just never the time that you want to have to deal with a loss like this, but the good thing is that any struggles that he was dealing with are now over. Everybody reminiscing, remembering the greats of Junior Johnson, and passing along all good thoughts and wishes to Junior's family. So his legacy will absolutely never be forgotten. A first class, I guess that's the best way to say it, a first class Hall of Famer, many wins as both a driver and a team owner, a champion off the racetrack, a champion on the racetrack. He will absolutely be missed. Junior Johnson passed away this past Friday at the age of 88, complications from a stroke. Tough day. It also says here, he also had Alzheimer's disease, so that's even more unfortunate. So it's a shame. The world will not be the same without Junior Johnson, but glad that his suffering is no longer happening, and everything and everybody that I've heard have been nothing but incredibly supportive and just showing a tremendous amount of love for Junior Johnson. So that will not be a loss that is easy or even at all possible to replace. Some other news. I guess this is a little more positive. It doesn't have anything to do with fatalities, but still not a positive necessarily in the NASCAR world. We got some news this past week about BK Racing. BK Racing was a former Cup team competing in the Cup Series, did not race last year, and has had some financial issues that prevented them from continuing racing. And we were able to learn some more about that whole situation. This coming from RacingNews.co, stating some of the funding issues from BK Racing. Several years ago, BK Racing took out a bank loan of $9 million to fund operations of a NASCAR Cup Series team. As they continued to operate, nobody was paid. The team was in an out-of-the-court system after team founder Rob Devine filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. A trustee was put in place to run the team as Devine was forced out. Before that, employees were not paid. Matthew Smith was appointed trustee of the team in March 2018. He could only operate on purse and sponsorship funds, but was able to pay employees from that point forward. In August 2018, the team was sold to Front Row Motorsports. It was approved by U.S. Bankruptcy Court Judge J. Craig Whitley. Neither the bank nor the IRS objected the sale. They were the creditors owed the most from the team. One person did object the sale, the former team owner. Ron Devine stated that he helped keep the team going before the trustee was put into place. He stated that $15 million of his own funds were put in place to keep the team at the racetrack. Devine still has a passion for NASCAR. Over the course of the hearings, he stated other options were in place for him to work on a return to the sport. Front Row Motorsports management purchased the team for $2.08 million in August 2018. Other minor assets were also sold. However, there were 78 claims against the team totaling $44,295,884.91. That's a wide spread, but funds are set to be distributed regardless. A plan has been put into place to distribute the funds from the sale. And then it kind of breaks down some of the money here. It says BK Racing debt. It says that kind of divides it up. There is a debt and then to be paid back. So the bank debt was $9 million, and the to be paid back is only $1.175 million. The IRS was $2.88 million, and they are only going to get $450,000. Lawyers and trustee $570,000. To be paid back is $400,000, and the employees $356,000 and $178,000 to be paid back. So some more information being released about the whole BK Racing debacle. Not good. Never good when a story like this works its way through the pipelines, but definitely something that is worth mentioning, and just an unfortunate situation. But Front Row Motorsports now taking over that team, but not the money that they have to deal out. So just an ugly racing court case that never makes anybody look any good. Some awesome news for a lot of old school fans this past week came out. That Busch is going to return as the title sponsor for the Clash at Daytona. As I'm sure the majority of you know, the Clash is the very first NASCAR race of the season. It is a preseason race, no points, one of the two non-points races that happens. Used to be called the Bud Shootout, the Sprint Unlimited, recently the Advanced Auto Parts Clash, but now Busch has returned to the title sponsorship of that event. That is going to be raced on Sunday, February 9th at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And obviously that's part of one of the perks that Busch got as being a premier partner with the Cup Series for 2020. So a lot of people are very happy about that. This is the inaugural name of the event. It was called the Busch Clash when it first started, then bounced around to a ton of different names, and now it's back to Busch. So I think it's a little ridiculous that some people are like, oh, this is what NASCAR needs to do. Bring back the old school fans. A sponsorship deal? I mean, it could have been named the Busch Clash from start to beginning, but they didn't sponsor it the whole way. I don't really know what a name is going to do to bring people back. I mean, we can name any of these things anything we want. How is that going to help old school? It's still a new school product. Old school name, new school product. I mean, I get that the name's cool and makes you feel good and remember the past, but you still have this year's product. I don't know, but any sponsorship deal in my mind is cool. So it is cool to hear the original name come back, but cool to hear about some more information about a premier sponsor getting something out of their deal and having more of an impact on the Cup Series for 2020. So, you might be able to consider this NASCAR-related news. Well, yeah, I don't think there's any might. But this past week, it was announced that Stuart Friesen is going to compete in the NASCAR Pinty Series race at the Ohsweken Speedway in August. That is the very first dirt racing event that the Pinty Series is going to compete in. This coming from an article on DirtTrackDigest.com says the biggest Canadian dirt track event of the summer just got even better. Canadian NASCAR star and dirt track ace Stuart Friesen has announced he will compete in the first ever NASCAR Pinty Series race on dirt at Ohsweken Speedway on Tuesday, August 18th. Friesen will also compete in a 360 sprint car at the track's Northern Summer Nationals on August 17th and 18th as part of the show. The Ohsweken Speedway General Manager Clinton Jeffrey said, quote, "This is already a destination event for Canadian motorsports fans, and adding Stuart Friesen to the cast of talent in the NASCAR Pinty Series and in our local Ohsweken divisions just adds to this star-studded event," unquote. Friesen is no stranger to muscling a stock car on dirt, as the Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario native has competed with the NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series at Eldora Speedway 4 times, where he earned his first career NASCAR National Series win in 2019. Friesen has finished on the podium at Eldora 3 times in 4 starts at the event. While Friesen's ride for the event is still to be announced at a later date, he will be bringing his crew chief Trip Bruce north of the border to turn the wrenches at the event. Friesen is no stranger to Ohsweken Speedway either. Arguably one of the most versatile race car drivers on the planet right now, Friesen has previously proven he can succeed behind the wheel of any car on asphalt or on dirt. 4 years ago, Friesen showed just that when he became just the second Canadian-born driver to win a World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series event when he beat the Outlaws at Ohsweken on July 28, 2015. A year later, he won the biggest annual event on the Big Block Modified calendar when he triumphed at Super Dirt Week in Oswego, New York on October 9, 2016. This year, Friesen will also attempt to get the better of a talented cast of Ohsweken 360 Sprint Car regulars when he races in a Kevin Lovey's prepared Glenn Stires Racing Sprint Car with support from Ohsweken Speedway Race Source. The 360 Sprint Cars will compete on back-to-back nights with full shows on Monday, August 17th and Tuesday, August 18th. In addition to the NASCAR Pinty Series and Cool Kids Core Pack 360 Sprint Cars, the Action Sprint Tour and Middleport Mechanical Thunder Stocks will also be in action on Monday, August 17th. The HRW Automotive Mini Stocks will also join the NASCAR Pinty Series and the Cool Kids Core Pack 360 Sprint Cars on Tuesday, August 18th. Advanced Reserve, that's not necessary to mention. How cool is that, to be a mini stock driver being a support division for a NASCAR touring series? That's pretty damn sweet. So some information for you there about Stuart Friesen racing at Ohsweken Speedway in both a 360 Sprint Car and with the NASCAR Pinty Series event. Still no word on who he's racing for in that event, but he will be racing. Let's see. Okay, so I was just reading some of the information posted below the article. Ohsweken Speedway is a racetrack that they actually live stream all of their races via their own broadcasting network and onto their own social media events. Looks like they're going to be doing that again next season. I don't know if they are going to have the rights to broadcast the Pinty Series race, but if they do, it'll make watching that event so much easier for anybody that can attend, like myself. Should be cool. We're going to be talking about this event a lot throughout the next 8 months or so, up until this happens. So hopefully it gets as good of a turnout as we all hope it does, and it puts on a great show and maybe can set a new tradition for the Pinty Series moving forward. Truck Series driver Christian Eckes had some surgery this past week to take care of an issue that he had. This article coming from kickinthetires.net. Talking about the surgery. Following the NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series season finale, Christian Eckes underwent a successful left shoulder surgery. The 2019 ARCA Menard Series champion first injured his left shoulder about 5 years ago in a racing incident. As Eckes was competing in both Legends cars and late model competition, he is unsure in which car he suffered the injury, a torn labrum in the rear of the shoulder. The surgery took place as Eckes transitions from ARCA to the NASCAR Gainer RV and Outdoors Truck Series. The Middletown, New York native will compete for both the championship and Rookie of the Year honors in the number 18 Safelite Toyota Tundra for Kyle Busch Motorsports. Eckes told Kick in the Tires that the injury had been bothersome, but that he will be healed in time for Daytona. He said, quote, "I had shoulder surgery here about 3 weeks ago now. It's always bothered me for a long time now. I think it's from a wreck or something from 2015 range, and I finally had the time and doctors around me to do it successfully. I might have to do the right one next year too, but at least I'll be prepared for now. So everything's going good, and it should be perfect for Daytona," unquote. The 19-year-old has started physical therapy recently and will continue physical therapy beyond Speed Weeks. Eckes is expected to be relatively near 100% by the time the 2020 Truck Series season opener takes place Friday, February 14th. Eckes will have the added benefit of having two-time championship-winning crew chief Rudy Fugle on top of the pit box. The duo worked together in 8 races this season, resulting in 3 top 5, 4 top 10s, and 3 pole positions. The teenager has already rebounded once before. Eckes missed the first ARCA race at Salem Speedway due to food poisoning. He rallied to win the championship despite starting one less race than his Venturini Motorsports teammate. So, good news for Christian there, getting the time to take care of an issue that he has had for a while. Surgery went successfully, did what he needed to do. He will continue to do his rehab up until just a little after the Truck Series gets going. Will not have any effect on him racing the Truck Series next year, and if anything, will probably help him become even better at doing what he needs to do. So, good to hear about that, and good to know that he's going to have a safe, healthy, and hopefully positive rookie season in the trucks. Big news out of the Cup Series again this past week. We now know who is going to replace Cole Hearn as Martin Truex Jr.'s crew chief in 2020. That gentleman will be James Small. This coming from an article on Racer.com. James Small will serve as Martin Truex Jr.'s crew chief beginning in 2020, Joe Gibbs Racing announced Thursday. Small, 36, replaces Cole Hearn, who announced December 9th that he was stepping away from racing to spend more time with his family. Lead engineer on the number 19 Toyota team in 2019, Small has worked with Truex in some capacity for the last 3 seasons. That includes both of their tenures at Furniture Row Racing. Small said, quote, "This is an incredible opportunity. Having the confidence of Coach Joe Gibbs, Martin, and everyone at JGR means a lot to me. I moved to the United States 6 years ago to work in NASCAR, and I wanted to work my way up to becoming crew chief. I'm ready for this, and I'm excited about working with Martin and the foundation we have in place on the 19 team with the group of guys we have," unquote. Before moving to the United States, Small worked in Australia in the Supercars Championship. He began his NASCAR career in an engineering role with Richard Childress Racing in 2014. In 2017, Small joined Furniture Row, where he was the lead engineer for the number 77 team with Eric Jones. Before transitioning to Truex's team in 2018, Small got a taste of being a NASCAR Cup Series crew chief when he filled in for Chris Gale in 2 races. Small guided Jones to a 10th place finish at Watkins Glen and a 3rd place effort at Michigan. Truex said about the whole thing, quote, "I know James well and feel very comfortable with him. I feel like we approach racing very similar. He and Cole have a lot of similarities. It's a natural fit, and I'm really excited about it. I think he'll do a great job," unquote. Joe Gibbs Racing also announced that Truex will reunite with Jeff Curtis, who he also worked with at Furniture Row. Curtis spent the 19 season with Kurt Busch at Chip Ganassi Racing and will become Truex's lead engineer. So some personnel announcements there for Martin Truex Jr. and his number 19 Toyota team for Joe Gibbs Racing in 2020. James Small will be the new crew chief, and at the end there, Jeff Curtis will be his lead engineer. A lot of people kind of concerned and worried about the whole change without Cole Hearn being there. Sounds like James is a great fit for the job. We'll see how well that they can do together, but I really don't think there's going to be much to worry about. Incredible team, incredible driver, incredible organization. I think they're going to be just fine, to say the least. Seeing this as a side article here on Racer.com and hearing about it mentioned earlier today, this article was actually posted a few days ago, but I heard on NASCAR Radio today that Joey Gase has signed with Rick Ware Racing for the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series season. We'll jump into Jump into this announcement here a little bit. Joey Gase will compete in the NASCAR Cup Series full-time in 2020 with Rick Ware Racing. The season opening Daytona 500 on February 16th will be Gase's second appearance in the event and his 42nd career start in the series. Gase has made select Cup Series starts since 2014, with his best effort being an 18th place finish in the fall 2018 race at Talladega Superspeedway. Team owner Rick Ware said, quote, "I am excited to have Joey Gase join the Rick Ware Racing family in 2020. Joey and his family are great people whose values align perfectly with RWR. I am looking forward to growing our team and having a great season next year." Unquote. A car number for Gase was not announced. Among the partners mentioned for Gase this season were Donate Life and OPO Partners, EFX Corporation, Page Construction, Agri Supply, The Racing Warehouse, Safe, ProMaster, and Eternal Fan. The team said more would be announced at a later date. Gase said, quote, "I'm very excited to be able to call Rick Ware Racing my home for 2020. It's a dream come true to be able to compete in the NASCAR Cup Series full time. It has been a dream of not only mine, but my whole family ever since I can remember. And it's taken a lot of hard work and sacrifices to get me here. I feel very fortunate to be able to say this, and can't thank Rick, Lisa, everyone at RWR, and all of our partners enough for making it possible. December has been an amazing month that God has blessed me with so far. The start of the month was Caitlin's and my 1-year wedding anniversary. Then a few days later, the birth of our twins, Carson and Jace. And now this. Daytona can't come soon enough." Unquote. Gase moves into Cup after 6 full seasons in the Xfinity Series. He finished a career-best 20th in the point standings in both 2014 and 18. So good news for Joey Gase. Even though I'm not really super high on Joey Gase, it's nice to see him so positive and feeling good about life right now. Gets himself a full-time Cup ride, celebrates a 1-year wedding anniversary, and now he's a father to 2 healthy twins. So that's really awesome. Glad that he's finding success in life and happy with his life. Has a little bit of job security moving forward. Obviously, Rick Ware Racing is not one of the major teams that anybody really cares to mention too much, but they're an important part of the sport. He's got a full-time ride, and really that's all that matters. So congrats to Joey Gase. We'll see him on the track full-time in 2020 in the NASCAR Cup Series. Stepping away from the NASCAR world here for a few more announcements before we turn things over to you guys and do a little new twist on our viewer segment. Irwindale Speedway announced a special event this past week. The All-Star Sunrise Ford Showdown at Irwindale Speedway will take place on February 1st. This event will feature a $25,000 to win super late model race, which will be a 200 lap event, and it will have a $10,000 to win pro late model event that will be 100 laps in length. The difference between the two events is that the super late model race is going to be on the half-mile racetrack, and the pro late model race is going to be on the 1/3 mile racetrack. I love Irwindale Speedway. It was one of my favorite racetracks to race at on iRacing, and puts on really good racing. It's a nice wide short track, progressive banking, very exciting to watch racing at that facility. Fun to race it online, so I'm sure it's fun to race it in the real world as well. So if you're in the area of Irwindale Speedway, February 1st, you have something to look forward to, the All-Star Showdown. $25,000 200 lap super late model race and a $10,000 100 lap pro late model race. Good stuff there. It always makes me happy to continue to hear stuff coming out of Irwindale Speedway. That track was so close to shutting down and being torn into something ridiculous so many times. So every time that they announce a racing event, it just does my heart good to know that they're sticking around and they will continue to race. So if you're in the area, make sure to support that event. That is coming up on February 1st, which is a Saturday, the first Saturday in February. Some interesting news here coming out of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, or for that. I kind of got a little confused reading all of this, but I guess reading through at least part of this article will kind of help, maybe help me understand it a little bit better. Let's see. I'm just trying to gaze through this article and see what the important parts of this article and this announcement is. Okay, honestly, I don't really know. So I guess I'll just read this here from the Facebook post that was made. But they're saying for the 24 Hours of Le Mans, for 30 minutes, there will be 24 cars, 6 LMP1s, 6 LMP2s, 6 LMGTE Pros, and 6 LMGTE AMs. They will all head out on the track for a demonstration of pure speed called Hyperpole, where the time that counts is the time achieved by the fastest driver on each team. So that's going to happen Thursday, June 11th from 9 to 9:30 p.m. For that event. Let's see here. So in this part of the article, it says, get ready for Hyperpole at Le Mans 2020. The traditional qualifying session for the 24 Hours of Le Mans has been shaken up for 2020. There will now be 2 stages designed to encourage sheer speed and some spectacular track action. On a Wednesday from 23:15 to 0 o'clock, I don't know how you properly talk in military terms, there will be a 45-minute qualifying session when all entries in the race will take to the track at the same time. At the end of this session, 24 competitors, the 6 best in each class, will go on to compete in a new Hyperpole session the next day when the first 6 places on the grid will be determined for each class. So on Thursday from 2100 to 2130, 24 cars, 6 LMP1s, 6 LMP2s, 6 LMGTE Pros, and 6 LMGTE AMs will all head out on track for a demonstration of pure speed where the time that counts is the time achieved by the fastest driver on each team. The 24 competitors will not be permitted to return to their garage during this Hyperpole session. However, they will have a free choice of tires within the limit of their tire allocation for the race. The 2020 24 Hours Le Mans 24 Hours Le Mans grid will now be formed per category: LMP1, LMP2, LMGTE Pro, and LMGTE AM. Competitors that do not make the cut for the Hyperpole session will qualify according to the times achieved during Wednesday's 45-minute session. This is how Wednesday and Thursday's free practice, qualifying, and Hyperpole action will play out. So, during that week, on Wednesday, June 10th, you will have a free practice from 15:30. No. Okay. Free practice from 3:30 to 8 o'clock. Another free practice from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And then qualifying from 11:15 to midnight. On Thursday, June 11th, you will have a free practice from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. The Hyperpole will happen from 9 o'clock to 9:30, and then another free practice will happen from 10 to midnight. So it makes so much more sense once you take the stupid-ass military time out of it. I don't know. I don't do military time, so I don't know how you properly talk in military time. So feel free to make fun of me all you want, but I don't care. So those are the changes for the 24 Hours of qualifying session for 2020. I also want to point out that, listen very closely to me here. This event is called the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Le Mans. Le Mans. Le Mans. It's not called Le Mans, Le Mans, Le Mans, Le Mans, Le Mans, Le Mans. I hear so many American race fans that don't know how to say that properly, and it annoys the piss out of me. Le Mans. Take the N and the S off and say it without it. Le Mans. There you go. Now you know how to be right. In other news, Donny Schatz is going to be returning to the Chili Bowl. This time, he will be doing it with Spike Chassis. Thank you. Bubblegum Gangsta says, oh my god, it's so irritating. I know. I hate it too. It drives me insane. All right, coming from Speedsport.com, 10-time World of Outlaws NOS Energy Sprint Car Series champion Donny Schatz announced Wednesday that he will compete in the 2020 Lucas Oil Chili Bowl Midget Nationals. Schatz will drive for Mark Cooper, the owner of Spike Chassis, with co-entrant support from Mike Curb of Curb Agajanian Racing. Partnering with Sage Fruit and Curb Records, Schatz is set for his third event appearance during the 34th Annual Chili Bowl, January 13th to 18th, inside the River Spirit Expo Center. Schatz said, quote, I'm looking forward to making a return to the Chili Bowl driving for Mark Cooper, who's been a friend of mine for many years. We've gotten to know each other through racing in Australia, and when Mark offered me the opportunity to return to the Chili Bowl as part of this team, it was a quick decision. The Spike Chassis stable is always strong, and I'm really looking forward to taking another shot at the Chili Bowl with Mark and Derek Schwabauer. I'm also really excited to carry the Sage Fruit and Curb brands on my Chili Bowl car. Both Chuck Sinks and Mike Curb have been huge supporters of our programs at Tony Stewart Racing, and it's a privilege to have them as partners for a special event like the Chili Bowl. Having Mike as the co-entrant on my car along with Mark, I'd love nothing more than to add a Chili Bowl win to all of our racing resumes, unquote. Schatz made his first Chili Bowl start in 2017 with Clausen Marshall Racing, finishing 7th in the first B main on the final night and just one spot short of transferring into the Championship A main. In 2018, Schatz returned to Tulsa, where he was relegated to a 7th place finish in the second D main on Saturday night following a disappointing DNF in his preliminary A main. Cooper is hoping to see Schatz's Chili Bowl results in 2020 take a turn for the better. Cooper said, quote, after a long friendship of helping Donnie out with all his racing needs in Australia for 10 years, I asked if it would be possible to get him back to Chili Bowl to promote our new Spike Midget chassis. He was keen to help us out with promoting the new chassis and to get back to this great event. I'm so proud to have him compete in a Spike chassis and under our banner for the 2020 Chili Bowl, unquote. Chuck Sinks, the president in sales of marketing for Sage Fruit, is also looking to add a Chili Bowl win to the brand's racing portfolio to kick off the 2020 season in a big way. He said, quote, Sage Fruit has long been a part of the Chili Bowl. I've been going to Tulsa for 30 years and have enjoyed it each and every year. To be the primary sponsor, the number 15 Donny Schatz, Mark Cooper, Mark Curb, Ream, for this year's Chili Bowl will bring a bigger excitement to us knowing that we are part of such a great partnership. Mark Cooper always brings great cars to the Chili Bowl that are capable of winning, and to be a part of that team gives us something to look forward to in January, unquote. So some awesome news there for Donny Schatz. He's going to come back to the Chili Bowl. Sounds like he's got some awesome support from Spike Chassis, Sage Fruit, and Curb Records. Obviously, Donny is a legend, a living legend in the sprint car world. Has yet to ever qualify for the A main event at the Chili Bowl. Fun little fact there. So we'll see if 2020 is the year. We're counting down the days. We are less than a month away from the start of the Chili Bowl. Actually, if you want to get super technical with it, we are 3 weeks from today is the first day of the Chili Bowl. 3 weeks away from the 2020 edition of the Chili Bowl. 24 Hours of Lemons. Oh, wait, that actually exists. It does. The 24 Hours of Lemons and the 24 Hours of Le Mans are real things. They are just very, very different. The IMCA has announced that there is going to be an inaugural Junior National Championship. This is coming from Winter.com. Attracting the attention and engagement of the younger generation is imperative for the future success of racing. With that in mind, IMCA is stepping up to the plate to do their part. The tenured sanction recently announced that their first Junior National Champion will be crowned in 2020. Drivers between the ages of 13 and 18 in all 8 IMCA divisions will compete for the title. The final point standings are scheduled to be based on the best 20 finishes in their first 40 starts. The Junior National Champion will be given the same accolades as national champions in each of those divisions during the IMCA Awards banquet in November. Additionally, the top point earner will receive a trophy, ring, and jacket. Meanwhile, the top 10 drivers in Junior National Champion point standings will receive $500 scholarships. These scholarships are applicable towards post-high school education in the first year of the program. Scholarship funds will be paid when drivers register for their first year of higher education. IMCA President Brett Root said, quote, This is something we've wanted to do for a while. This is a good time to get the Junior National Champion and Scholarship Fund established. It's our way of helping build the sport and rewarding the participation of our youngest competitors. They'll be able to race for their own national championship and earn money to help pay for their post-secondary education. Scholarships will not be based on a certain program or field of study. We'll see so many different occupations represented by our current membership that we don't want to place any limits on scholarship recipients, unquote. To be eligible for the Junior National Championship, drivers must turn 14 by August 31st and must not turn 19 before May 31st. Root continued on by saying, quote, selection of those dates allows 13-year-old drivers to compete for the majority of our weekly point season. It also means drivers who turn 14 in September can still race 4 times and not lose Rookie of the Year status for the following season, unquote. It is important to note that no points will be awarded to non-IMCA members or to any driver who has not submitted a correct minor release form, nor will points be awarded retroactively. The 2019 season saw 14 and 15-year-old drivers race to numerous IMCA national and regional Rookie of the Year titles, as well as track championships. Individual scholarship funds will accumulate over multiple seasons and be paid out at one time. And then one final quote from Root. He says, quote, as other sanctions worry about changing divisional rules and simply start outpricing the youngest racers the sport has to offer, we're going to focus on the things that matter, like engaging young racers in the things they would actually benefit from, unquote. More information about the IMCA Junior National Champion and the accompanying scholarship fund will be announced. So a pretty cool sounding program there from IMCA. Obviously, everybody knows how insane the youngsters are becoming a part of the racing world, and they are jumping on the bandwagon and helping them out. Great opportunity here to involve them in racing and also to help them out if they decide to go to college after high school. So I wish that program nothing but success. It will absolutely continue to make me jealous, as I wish I was racing on a weekly basis like these guys are. But either way, it's good for the sport and good for them as well. All right, so one final thing that I had to talk about before we go into our viewer segment, which will have a little bit of a different twist this time around, is that Weed Sport Speedway here in Weedsport, New York, well, not here where I'm at, but close to where I'm at, they announced their 2020 schedule this past week. For those not familiar with the Weed Sport Speedway, they are not a weekly racing racetrack. They do special events. They race about, I'd say, 9 to 12 times a year, and that's roughly about what they're going to do here for 2020 as well. Their schedule is going to kick off on May 3rd. That will be a test and tune for all divisions. So if you have a race car and are looking to test it out, go to the Weed Sport Speedway on May 3rd. Their first legitimate racing event will be on May 25th, which is Memorial Day, right? That doesn't say exactly. But I'm pretty sure that's the case. That will be the Heroes Remembered 100 for the Super Dirt Car Series, and they will also have Sportsman and CRA Sprints as support divisions. On June 7th, the All-Star Showcase will come in. That is an Ollie's Bargain Outlet All-Star Circuit of Champions Sprint Car event, and they will also be supported by the Sterling Lubricants Modifieds. 1 week later, on June 14th, will be Thunder on the Erie. That is the USAC AMSOIL National Sprint Car Series event, the final event for the Eastern Storm program. They will be supported by the Sterling Lubricants Modifieds and the CNY Mod Lights. 2-day program here to kick off July 3rd and July 4th. It is New York State Bike Night on July 3rd, which is an American Flat Track event. You'll have those bikes and a fireworks show. And then night number 2, New York Short Track Night. The American Flat Track series will compete as well. So that's the third year in a row that American Flat Track has come to Weed Sport. That event has obviously been successful the past 2 years. They're going to bring it back in 2020. July 26th, the Hall of Fame 100 for the Super Dirt Car Series. The Sportsman Classic 75 is also going to be part of that event, as well as the Vintage Division. The Empire State Challenge will take place on August 1st. That is the annual visit for the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car Series. They will be supported by the 358 Modifieds. August 9th is ESS Legends Reunion Night, ESS Sprint Cars, Sportsman, and Vintage. A new event for 2020, that is going to be the Cavalcade Cup. It is a 2-day event, September 11th and 12th. The first day, Cavalcade Cup Friday double play, Big Block Modifieds, and Empire Super Sprints action. And then on the 12th is the third and final Super Dirt Car Series race for Weedsport, the Cavalcade Cup 100. You will also have Rush Late Models and the Dirt Car Pro Stock Series competing as well. And then to cap it all off, on October 7th, you have the Super Dirt Week Kickoff Party with the Dirt Car 358 Modified Series and the Dirt Car Sportsman Series. So another great schedule for 2020 for the Weedsport Speedway, the home of the fastest cars and the biggest stars. Get your ass to Weedsport. Without a doubt, the nicest facility in New York State. Doesn't put on the best racing in New York. Very good racing event. Very good racing track. Not at all throwing shade at Weedsport. Weedsport is awesome. But there are better. Facility-wise, you're not going to find a nicer place. But always a good time to go to Weedsport. Great location, great venue, great racing, and looking like another great season for 2020 as well. All right, so here we go. It is viewer segment time. So this is the time of the show where I turn things over to you. Anything that you would like to talk about, any questions that you have to ask me, your racing plans for the upcoming week, your racing plans from the past week, anything like that you want to share that has not been mentioned on this show, now is your chance. I am going to take over this segment first because I posted something in our Facebook group to help promote this time of the show as well. I've talked about doing this for a couple weeks now, and I haven't done it, so I decided to do it tonight because I knew that I didn't have as many things to talk about as usual. So here we go. I posted in our Facebook group, and this is a great reason for you to get into the Facebook group because you can become part of the show even easier than what this section or what this part of the show is already for. So I asked you in the Facebook group to tell me what your favorite race that you attended this year was. Unfortunately, I only got 3 responses from it. 2 of them are actually worth mentioning, so maybe that goes to show how much people care about this show or how much I need to start branching it out more to more people. But either way, we did get 2 responses, and I've got to jump in on my case too. So, my favorite racing event of 2019 that I attended, I had to do a little bit of thinking about this one. It's always easier to remember the more recent events than the later ones. But I would say that my favorite racing event from 2019 would probably be I'll get down to the specific, the Crate Late Model feature during Outlaw 200 weekend. Was probably the best race that I saw all year long. It had an incredible finish, which absolutely helped. But probably what helped make that as good as it was is that it was a classic Chad Homan run down through the field. Chad Homan, local Crate Late Model driver, he competed at Fulton every week. Won the track championship, won a lot of races, and he won a lot of races doing it the same exact way. During Outlaw 200 weekend, the late models run a 50-lap race. Great amount of cars, biggest car count of the entire year, and Chad just did it like he always does. Kind of slow and steady around the inside of the racetrack, and just slowly but surely reels these guys in, picks off car after car, and works his way to the front. Charlie Sandercock, he's a Canadian late model driver, extremely talented. He wins a lot of races. He's been extremely successful. Definitely a staple in Crate Late Model racing. He led the majority of that race, was out front, led a ton of laps, and really looked like he was going to run away with the show. But late in the going, Chad Homan kind of doing his thing, slowly but surely reeled him in. And I didn't really think he was going to be close enough to able to make a move. But here he comes down into turn 3 on the final lap, drives the piss out of the entry, slides up the racetrack. Charlie's able to catch it just in time, hits the brakes. I think he makes a little bit of contact with Chad's rear bumper, which stalls the momentum just a little bit. Sandercock turns underneath of him. They both make a beeline for the finish line, and it's Chad Homan to take the checkered flag. Insane reaction to that race. Did not at all expect it to end that way. Phenomenal finish. Awesome battle between the two of those guys. Two very successful drivers, very credible drivers, putting on an awesome show, and a last lap slide job move for the win. Honorable mention at number 2, and part of me didn't say this because I didn't want to be biased, but I think I had a better reaction to Outlaw 200 late model race as is. Number 2 would probably be the Dirt Car 358 Modified Series race during Super Dirt Week. I say that I try not to be biased about it because my guy Billy Decker picked up the win, but it was just such a good race. It was such a good race, and it showed what Oswego Speedway could be under the right circumstances. During that day, we got a lot of rain, pushed the show back to the nighttime, and gave us a lot of moisture. And that's not something that they do a lot at Oswego. They don't put down enough moisture, so it becomes a too slick, rubbered up racetrack around the bottom. Nobody can really pass. It's boring. You get a lot of guys slamming into each other, a lot of flat tires, a lot of problems, just a lot of crap. That was not the case for the 358 race. The track was hooked up. You could use any lane that you wanted to. There was a phenomenal battle at the front of the field between Larry White, Eric Rudolph, and Billy Decker. They were slicing and dicing through lap traffic, swapping positions, watching Decker work his way through the field to take over the win was phenomenal. I loved it, obviously because my guy got the win, but the racing product was just good. It kicked so much ass over the big block race. The big block race honestly sucked compared to what the 358 race was. And just goes to show in my mind why you need to put moisture down on that racetrack. I understand that the 200 is the day show, and you have to do things a little bit differently racing it in the day than you do at night. But even still, that race was spectacular. You could have done more to that racetrack to make it more exciting on Sunday. But the 358 race was absolutely the best race of the modified of Super Dirt Week, and was probably the best modified race that I saw all year long. And as I've said, big block race, poop. So number 1, the Crate Late Model race during Outlaw 200 weekend at the Fulton Speedway. And if I were to give a number 2, it would be the Dirt Car 358 Modified Series race, the Salute to the Troops 150 during Super Dirt Week this year at the Oswego Speedway. Our 2 responses that we got on the Facebook post came from Noah Caverin, who is in chat right now, Wildchild R19. He said, Brownstown, Indiana for the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series sanctioned Jackson 100. Absolutely the best race I attended all year. And to ice the cake, local kid Hudson O'Neill wins the event and the crowd just fucking erupts. What an event that was. And then you have the Dome race this last weekend. I think that speaks for itself. It absolutely does. We talked about the Dome all throughout the first portion of the show. But he's going with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series Jackson 100 event. Hudson O'Neill picked up the win. Fantastic race, and I totally understand what he says there when the crowd erupting for the local guy. Last year, I went to all 3 nights of the Firecracker 100 at Lernerville Speedway in Starver, Pennsylvania, and one of their locals won one of the preliminary nights. He did not win the whole thing, but he won one of the preliminary nights, and everybody went nuts. Having a local guy defeat the Outlaws on such a big historic weekend like the Firecracker 100, totally understand it. It can absolutely understand or can get a feel for what the atmosphere was like for that event. So thank you, Noah, for chiming in on that post. We also had another response from Matthew Yorker. He is the son of a Sportsman Modified driver here in central New York. He said, Outlaw 200, the battles between Shepard, Maresca, Williamson, and Sears were great. One of the races I go back and whenever I have free time. I agree there. Outlaw 200 race was really good this past year. Maresca kind of shit on the field in the second half of the race, but it was a typical Outlaw 200 race. The track was really racy. We had a lot of green flag action. There wasn't a ton of cautions. It gave us a good show. And to see Mike Maresca pick up the win, Michael Maresca is, I guess, now how he's going by, pick up the win, young guy getting back into the modified world, and he had himself a really good year. He was a strong competitor. He won some races and picked up a huge win during the Outlaw 200. So that was a very fun race to watch. It's always one of my favorite races of the whole year. Kind of the unofficial start to Super Dirt Week. It's the biggest race of the year for my Saturday night home track, so it has a special meaning to me. Car counts were great this year. The racing was fairly good, and we got an awesome first-time winner out of it. Well, first-time Outlaw 200 winner out of the event, and definitely created a lot of headlines and storylines that nobody was expecting going into it. The only other addition to that topic that we have is from Bubblegum Gangsta here in chat. He says, unfortunately didn't make it to the track this year, but hope to get out to Watkins Glen for the 6 hour or get to Lime Rock for some IMSA action. If not, then I plan to get to my local dirt track and drag strip Lebanon Valley. Do it! I would be committing suicide by the time I got to April without going to a race. Now that I'm a hardcore race chaser, there's no way that I could do it. No way that I could ever do that. Not go to work. I had a friend of mine that I used to work with. His first race of the year was Super Dirt Week this year, the Friday Night Lights portion of Super Dirt Week. There's no way that I could not go to a race until the beginning of October. I would have to die. I would have to die. You cannot keep me away from the racetrack that long. It's either I go to the racetrack or I die. You pick your poison. So I appreciate the responses there to that topic. Wish that we had more things to talk about with that, but I did kind of put it up late. I put it up 3-4 hours ago. So I guess that could partially be my fault. Or it could just be that there are just a bunch of losers out there that don't want to participate. It was seen by 49 people. Why do I only have 3 responses? Lame as fuck. Are there a ton of people in our Facebook group that don't go to the racetrack? If you don't go to the racetrack, why the fuck are you even in my group? Why are you in my podcast group if you don't go to the racetrack? Why are you in my podcast group if you don't watch this podcast? Don't be like that, man. Don't be like that. I don't want to die either. We got a lot of racing left. I have a ton of racing left to do as a driver, as a spectator. I'm only 24 years old. I should at least have another 60, 65 years in me, right? Sounds at least normal. At least I would like to think. Okay, so now we'll get back to our normal viewer segment style. It says that there are 4 of you in chat. So, if there is anything here for the next little bit, an article that was not talked about, anything that you want to just create general discussion about, talk about racing plans for the upcoming weekend, your past racing plans, any questions for me, anything like that, let's bounce it back and forth here for a little while. We're only at the hour and a half mark, so let's try to chit-chat for the next 10 minutes or so. Sounds good to me. The fact that the Crate Late Model race was my introduction to racing in your neck of the woods, I think spoiled my Super Dirt Week by raising the bar too high. That might be true. Wild Child did come out here for Super Dirt Week his first time, and I made sure he came out here for Outlaw 200 weekend. That was literally the first race day that he spent in New York was the night that late model feature happened. So I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. Maybe it did raise your bar too high. But Crate Late Model racing in Fulton is it's always really good. Just the downfall is that they don't get a lot of cars. They usually average between 9 and 12 cars a night. They used to get more when Late Models first became a weekly program at Fulton. But now they kind of suffer. And it sucks because the racing on that division at that track is so good and totally deserves more attention than what it is given and should have a bigger following. But of course, you can't just distribute, you gotta, It's not like you can just pass out race cars like it's free candy. It's a tough hobby. It's a tough hobby to get into. But hopefully one day that will improve for the future. Yep. Story of my life there. Oh, man. So what do we have coming up this week? Is there any racing going on this weekend? Does anybody know if there is any kind of racing going on this weekend? Anything that we can hype ourselves up for? Or, actually, I know what's going on this weekend. Let me, Speed Shift TV's got broadcast this week, so, let's see. Alright, so it's kind of tough to determine exactly when all of this is happening. I think I know based off of, like, these little snippets down below. But let's see. So there are 2 different events going on Christmas Day. Western Springs International Midgets. Sprint Cars, Midgets, TQs, Formula 2, Quarter Midgets at Springs Speedway. And then Murray Bridge Speedway, World Series Sprint Cars. All that it says there. The Western Springs event looks to be going off at 8:45 Pacific, and the Murray Bridge Speedway at 10:30 Pacific. Then on December 26th, you have another World Series Sprint Cars event at Murray Bridge at 10:30 Pacific. Fast forward to Saturday the 28th. MED Motorsports Barn Burner. Looks like it's a go-karting event, 7 o'clock Pacific. Clones, Pure Stocks, Beg Flats, Junior Flats, Open 250 class, Briggs 206, Beg Box, and Briggs 206 box stocks. Or box stock. Borderline Speedway, also a broadcast going on at 7 o'clock. Doesn't say which time zone. World Series Sprint Cars. And then on the 29th, MED Motorsports Barn Burner again. Everything that I had just mentioned, same time, same event. And then on the 29th, SunGold Stadium Premier Speedway for the World Series Sprint Cars on December 29th. And then next Monday, 6 o'clock New Zealand time, looks like, Western Springs International Midgets, Avalon Raceway, 7 o'clock, World Series Sprint Cars, and Fairbury Speedway, 7 o'clock Central, December 30th, $300 to win UMP Modifieds. It'll be the remaining events for Speed Shift TV in 2019, at least. Yeah, that's why I got into sim racing recently. Smart, very smart. The end of a decade, 2019 was such an insane year for racing. Every week had a highlight event, it seemed. How do we go into 2020 and try to beat this year? See, you think it's impossible to beat what you just witnessed, but it somehow seems like it always happens. It somehow always seems like the racing gets better year by year. I'm so ready. I've been away from the racetrack now. Okay. Let's rewind. 1, 2 days. I've been away from the racetrack for 16 days, and I'm already itching to be back. Like, 16 days is way too much. That's probably the longest time that I've been away from the racetrack in, like, close to a year. 16 days away from the track. 16 days. I will be back at the track in 9 days. January 1st, the Hangover 2.0, Utica Rome Speedway, Vernon, New York. I am hoping that I will be a driver in that event. I'm hoping that if I have a good week of work, I'll be able to go purchase an Enduro car this weekend. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I hope I have good news to report to you next week. I'm not going to hype anybody up yet. Still have to see how this week goes, but that's the game plan. So, I guess we'll just see what happens. I guess we will see what happens. Yeah, I've been away from the racetrack for 2 days. Not cool. Not cool. Don't shove into the face of the guy that goes to the racetrack 100+ times a year that you've been to the racetrack 2 days ago. You got me beat. Congrats to you. Stop making fun of me. That's all I got. That's all I got. Straight up rude. Straight up rude. But, alrighty, folks. Well, I believe that this is where we're going to call it a night. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Solid show. Appreciate those of you who chimed in on the... there we go. That chimed in on the little topic I put up in our Facebook group. I just put down in our live chat our social media pages. You have our Facebook group and our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is where you can watch all of these shows in their entirety if you're not able to make these live shows. If you miss any part of the show, if you miss a previous show, whatever, go ahead and head to our YouTube channel. We'll have that stuff up there for you. I continuously said that I'm going to put these out or put these up on YouTube on Tuesdays. I'm really bad at making that Tuesday date, so I'm just going to stop saying that and put them up and get them up when I can. So make sure to go to the YouTube, subscribe to that, so you can catch up on anything that you missed, or relive parts of the show that you enjoyed. And, of course, our Facebook page. That's where we talk about anything and everything racing related. Feedback on our shows, anything and everything like that. So make sure to put yourself in the group. And putting yourself in our Facebook group gives you an impact on the show. If you post something good in that group, I'm going to talk about it right here. So make sure you do that. Share it with your racing friends. Share it with your non-racing friends. Share it to the people that you don't like. Help us grow this thing. Help us become bigger and better than we already are. Hopefully, once racing season starts picking up here, my goal is to kind of do some more advertising with this and try to get it out in front of as many people as possible and to try to get as many people as possible to come in. So, yeah. So you're coming to the Lou next year, right? It's a year away, man. I don't know. I don't know what December 2020 is going to have in store for me. Hopefully I'll win like 16 enduro races, then I'll have a bunch of bank in the cash, and I can absolutely make it happen. A bunch of bank in the cash. A bunch of cash in the bank. You see, usually in order to do this whole podcast thing, you have to be good at talking, and clearly I'm not good at talking. So maybe that's why people aren't showing up, because I just don't know how to talk. Whatever. So yeah, so you guys have that stuff in the chat. Those of you watching on YouTube, you've got our Twitch channel and the Facebook group in the description. Make sure to check that stuff out. We'll be back here next Monday for our final show of 2019. Our very last show of 2019. I really have no idea. I just lowered myself in my chair. Oh my god. I already thought I was at the lowest point. I hit the button and I dropped. I really don't know what to expect for next week's show. I don't really know what's going on other than what I mentioned on Speed Shift TV. But we'll have stuff to talk about. We always do. I'm not worried about that. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to share it with as many people as possible. Come back here next Monday, and we'll see you then. We'll see you next Monday. Final show of 2019, and then it's off to 2020. I'm hoping to have some awesome news for you guys on that show. But we'll find out. Have a fantastic week. Have a fantastic weekend. Find some racing to enjoy. In one way, shape, or form or another, go find yourself some racing to enjoy, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you for what you do. And of course, I almost forgot to say this. Merry Christmas! Have a safe, fun, and incredibly enjoyable holiday with all of your family, friends, and loved ones. Hopefully you get some awesome stuff. Hopefully you gave some awesome people some awesome stuff. And if it's racing related, come here and talk about it on the show. We'll talk about your racing Christmas presents. I don't care. We need content. So let's do it. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. Merry Christmas. We'll see you guys next Monday.